This week in Warcraft, resurrection spells cast by players now ignore resurrection timers. Warcraft movie is delayed until March 11th, 2016. And Greg Street, or better known as Ghostcrawler, is leaving Blizzard after 6 years to pursue new exciting opportunities. I'm Mezzy, and welcome to our weekly. Alright, welcome back to WoW Weekly, episode number 13. I'm Mezzy, and this week I am joined by LJ. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, and yourself?
Yeah, not too bad. I actually got my early birthday / Christmas presents, so the sound from my end should be a lot better now.
Nothing beats my PlayStation 4, though.
Yeah, I guess, maybe. Actually, no, this is better.
No,
Screw you.
PlayStation 4. PlayStation 4. No.
Sure. Alright, also joining us this week, surprisingly, suddenly at the last moment, is Darthux, or Milne now. How are you, Milne? Okay.
I am good. Sorry, I'm here.
There we
Yeah, I'm surprised. I'm curious to find out what's your Christmas / birthday, early birthday present.
Well, it's a brand new podcasting microphone, the Blue Yeti. It's recommended a lot. And microphone stand for it and a pop filter. So the sound should be a lot better now compared to what it used to be.
It still
And-
doesn't improve his voice, though, but yeah, we'll have to deal with that.
Yeah, sure.
Well, it's a good mic. It's not a magical mic.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Did you
Well.
just seriously?
Anyway, as you can hear, once again joining us is Anders. Welcome.
Oh,
He's working off a hangover, so hopefully he'll be able to hang on through the podcast.
Potentially.
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 Let's get right into it then. As we said last week, this week we're going to start with Karazhan. Now, 2 weeks ago, something appeared in one of the PTR patch notes about a Karazhan cleanup phase. And parts of Karazhan were a bit cleaned up, cobwebs were removed, and a few other things like that. But now it's actually been renamed to Medivh Birthday Bash. Now, this kind of reduces the amount of stuff we can expect from it. It sounds more like a small scenario now. But let's say it was still called Karazhan Cleanup. How would you guys have potentially seen this? Potentially a new Karazhan dungeon raid for Warlords of Draenor. After all, Medivh did open the first Dark Portal as well. Mario, let's have you start this time.
Well, I'm curious. I mean, I never been. I haven't seen. I don't usually go to early public task realms or anything. But when I heard and when I read about that and the few images I saw, it looked neat. And Karazhan is an awesome place. It will be nice to, go back and do things.
All right. Short and sweet, I guess. Anything else you want to add to that, LJ?
Well, I for one, I love that they're bringing Karazhan back because that was the original raid that I started raiding in. So that all basically started me off on my raiding career and meeting you guys, which isn't that great now I think of it, but it was pretty fun back in the day.
It should make you cry, to be honest.
Yeah.
It does every time I go to sleep.
Oh man, TBC scrub.
Fuck you, man. I think you're the only one that... I don't know about Mario if he did from Vanilla, but yeah, I know Valentine and I didn't really raid from then.
No, not raid, but
So yeah.
yeah.
But I love Karazhan. I still do it almost weekly for transmog gear and the such. I still want the fucking midnight mount.
Yeah,
But yeah, I'm really looking forward to that they're bringing that back at least. So yeah,
potentially.
potentially that
Yeah.
I let them bring it back.
Okay, I have to ask, Anders. That wasn't just a bird, was it?
I hope not.
That was his bird.
Oh, yeah. So, Anders, what are your thoughts on the
Oh, man.
Karazhan Restoration slash Medivh's birthday bash?
Well, Karazhan was, probably one of my favorite raids in WoW. So coming back there would be pretty awesome if they did restore the tower to some of its former glory, perhaps.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, it would be nice to see how it was before it all went to shits.
Yeah. Well, let's go on a limb here because Prince Malchezaar, the final boss of Karazhan, dropped Goror Howl back in the Burning Crusade. And Goror's, not Goror Howl, Malchezaar had access to all the time trials, I guess, dimensions. And that at least one of his lines or something along that, indicating that. Could we possibly actually see a connection, because we're going to an alternative timeline, that Karazhan might have a bigger involvement than the current phase, we'll call it, might indicate? Silence.
yeah.
I do not know, to be honest. I think it's pretty too much guessing to see if that is gonna happen. I don't think anything sure enough can be said about that at the moment. I'm just taking a guess here as well. I'll let Anders do the talking because he knows more about lore.
Really, I do.
I do.
Uh,
Yeah,
yeah.
you do.
All right.
Well,
For the sake of the podcast today, you do.
Oh, that's perfect. That's perfect.
Always going so smoothly at the start with the podcast.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Always.
Oh,
Everything goes so smooth at the start.
Oh yeah.
Well, Blizzard tends to say that item drops in game have usually very little, lore connection. So just because a boss drops a certain item doesn't mean you should read too much into it. Like the Gore Howl, for example. Like, how would he even have gotten the Gore Howl in the first place? Who knows?
Maybe you bought it off an auction house.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Maybe he already had access to the black market auction house when we were still in the Burning Crusade and bought it off of that.
Well, if you can time travel, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
So, sometimes things make sense, sometimes they don't.
Yeah. Well, had alternative timeline thing does have some implications that Blizzard won't get into anyway. I mean, if there is an alternative Draenor, isn't there an alternative Burning Legion? Does that mean there are two Kil'jaedins or Sargeras's? So, I think we're going to get into some pretty nasty stuff that Blizzard doesn't want to get into.
Yeah, they keep stating that this is not a time travel expansion. They just wanted to see cool stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
So the time travel thing is going to be toned down a lot.
Yeah.
And I mean, the way they're presenting it is that Garrus travels back in time. He does some mumbo jumbo, and he brings the alternate timeline into our timeline.
Yeah, exactly.
So
That's what he attempts to do, at least.
It doesn't exist in its own timeline. It exists in ours. So it's like there's a parallel Draenor out there,
Yeah, exactly.
and they're changing the dark portal to point to the other Draenor. So which is the way they're gonna skip all the time travel stuff. Nothing you do in this alternate Draenor has any effect on anything, because it's in our timeline.
that begs the question then, why even do something like this if it doesn't have anything connected lore wise?
Because they just want you to see cool shit.
Well, that might be it, but doesn't that on the long run do nothing? Basically, it might give some more potential storylines if it would have actually, maybe at the ending you never know that. Oh, it does have effect on somehow or some way or whoever knows. I mean that's what it's Blizzard for, but still,
Yeah.
I'm just
So
wondering
they
about what the larger implications would be for something like that.
Yeah, so they do have the possibility to tie in Karazhan to this whole time travel debacle. Or alternative timeline, I'll call it. Because that's what it's supposed to be. And one of the theories I read on MMO Champion was that during BlizzCon, Blizzard stated that the end of Warlords was going to tie in directly to the start of the expansion after that. And one of the theories I read, and I'm kind of hoping it is that we actually get to go back to the old Azeroth then, in that alternative timeline, and meet old heroes like King Elaine and what are the others? I guess Uther as well, maybe. All those older lore characters that we could potentially have to help them prevent the plague, for example.
Yeah,
Prevent the undead from forming.
I think if you go with time, they might not want to say the word time travel, but in a sense it still is. So if they want to say it or not, it still has. It might not be two guys in a DeLorean traveling back in time to fix something, but it's still an alternative reality that wouldn't have come to pass if Garrosh hadn't done what he's going to do.
Yeah, exactly.
So I mean, it's still going to have implications if they want it or not. And I'm just wondering how much is Blizzard going to work with that, with the time space continuum, and get that flux capacitor working, and just make something nice and good out
Yeah.
of it, instead of just trying to force what they want and not what is best.
Yeah, well,
Put it like that.
the thing is, and Mario, feel free to jump in. You've been quiet for a while. The thing is that what we're going to talk about with the discussion points later on as well is that perhaps they want to actually continue in this alternative timeline and use the old characters we perhaps haven't seen as much of in World of Warcraft, but we have in the Warcraft RTS games and the books, because there's quite an amount of lore there. All right, silence again. Mario, have any thoughts on
Well,
that?
I think now it must be your new mic. It mutes everyone else automatically.
Yeah, sure, of course, because that's how it works.
Well, what I have to say is anything. It's nice that we are debating this now, because I don't know much, and there isn't much released on exactly how everything is going to fit, and I think that having to guess or imagine, having the sensation of guessing and what it is going to be like, and I'm really looking forward to see what they come up with. And I can't remember last time I was this thrilled of, guessing and being excited. Also because I don't know much and I really want to know what they're going to do. Karazhan, no matter what happens, Karazhan when it comes out, um, it's going to be really fun to go back there. And if they can somehow fuse Karazhan to tell the story from a different angle, or to tell part of the story that we don't know about, and explain how something happened years past, it's going to be pretty cool. So I'm happy that it will come either way.
All right. Any last thoughts, either LJ or Anders, on this subject?
No, not really. Then, but to be honest, it's like what Milne says. That it's speculating on lore, and we can speculate all we want, but eventually it's just up to Blizzard, and we'll see what they produce.
Yeah.
I have high hopes.
That's a
Oh,
good
dear.
way to put it. Yeah.
You have
you know,
high. Oh, sorry.
it's been a while since we've seen an expansion with this much focus on existing lore.
Yeah. Yeah, it has.
Yeah, Cataclysm and Mob were both new lore, to put it like that.
Yeah,
Uh,
well,
we
Cataclysm
saw
did use the
characters,
old boss, or rather old character, but they absolutely completely ruined that one. Alright, moving
True.
on. Let's move on. So the next point, I think Mario will actually be quite happy to talk about, is that they...
Yay!
Indeed, yay. Sorry, they were answering some questions about the new way itemization works for the next expansion. And one of the things that came up was crafted items. And so the question was, are they also going to get potential random bonuses, like the tertiary stats and sockets? And the answer is yes, maybe. They are considering it to actually keep crafted items on par with loot items. So,
Which
Mario,
would be very nice.
take the stage. I'm sure you'd love to comment on this.
Yes, I'm sure now all my suspicions on the fact that Blizzard might have put some cameras and microphones here on my place are definitely confirmed now. In a way, I think that they heard my plea, which is try and get the crafting more matter more in the game, because come on, we have these professions and we can craft our own items, and for years now we've just been way too focused on come on, let's raid, let's get tokens, and let's go to the vendor and get our gear. And no, I mean, the game has a lot more to offer, and the crafting is, I mean, the game has a side of grinding to it, that the grinding, if you give a purpose for the grind, then grinding less of a problem. If you make your professions to matter more in the game, so you can achieve and have your higher gear. And I was like, oh, okay, no, I'm definitely going to spend a half hour, 1 hour, whatever, in one particular zone if I can get one particular material for me to craft my item. I'm definitely going to do that. So the fact that they bring in more of this, of the logic of using more art crafting to become better at the game, I think is just what they should have done. And in my opinion, they should have done a long time ago. But never mind. I'm happy that they're bringing it now.
Anyone
Better
else
late than
feel,
never.
anyone else feel like they're going to totally disappoint Mario now, after all that?
I don't see how they cannot do that. But I totally agree with what he says, though. I mean, it's the crafting feels a bit, well, I wouldn't say completely useless, but it's just not functional the way it is. It was functional in the past. They changed it because things need to change apparently, and it doesn't give you the satisfaction, or it doesn't fulfill needs, to put it like that. With engineering, you can make a mountain, you can make pads and stuff, and well, you have Blingtron, whoop-de freaking do. But for the rest, I mean, you can craft some things with blacksmithing, and basically, I have every profession on my account, so I know how it's going a bit, like on our server at least. I mean, I just barely sell things at the current item level for normal rates. I think that's what the crafted items are at the moment, right? Item level of the normal
Yeah,
rates. So,
that's how the items have been, at least for this expansion.
yeah,
For the new raid drops.
yeah. So I've done that for every profession there is. So I know what I'm talking about to a certain point, of course. But it's just I have done it for like a month and such, just purely to make money, not to use items for myself or to create items that one of my characters will use, even though they're alts or something. If it would really be useful or really be nice, I'd equip it, and I'd actually want to start using it, so play that character more probably. But I was just okay. I do my daily thing with tailoring, blacksmithing, leatherworking, and engineering, and make some money. That's
Hmm.
all what crafting is at the moment. And yeah, I mean, as much as I love money, especially for the Garrison next expansion, it's not crafting as it was in the Burning Crusade and such anymore. Where you actually had, I mean, I remember that you had to craft stuff for a boss, wasn't that? The
We
art,
still had resistance gear back then, didn't we?
yeah, exactly. With the resistance gears, but that I know
Yeah.
that that's gone now. But still, you had it that you needed to create. I know I was the only blacksmith in my then guild, and I needed to create tanking and such gear that had arcane resistance. I believe for what's his name again in the curator. I think it was
Was it the
because
curator in
I think it was a
Karazhan?
curator, or was it
Sure.
Droid Reaver?
It would have been either Void Reaver
Candlemancer,
or
probably.
Solarian.
Who? Sorry.
Solarian.
Solarian. Oh,
Solarian.
okay. That was that. Sorry, I didn't rate the eye that much. So, but yeah, that was that. It actually had some of a function, and the gear that I could create, like, also had weapons. I was a weaponsmith back then because you could specialize, and you had the weapons that they brought back in the with lightning Isle of Thunder. I mean, those were weapons that were really good and that you wanted to use because they would have been an upgrade. But now it's just a cash cow. That's all it is. Anybody else?
Yeah, exactly. Anything to add to that?
I'm pointing at
Anders?
you, Mr. Penguin.
Mr. Penguin.
Yeah,
Oh,
Anders has
yeah,
penguins.
of course.
Oh,
Different picture on Skype than we're using.
Oh, I don't care. He's Mr. Penguin.
I'm a pirate.
Exactly.
Or a
You're not.
Bounty. I'm not
You're
sure.
not a pirate.
Well, his picture says he is.
Let's see. Pictures don't lie.
We're
Yeah.
Danes pirates.
The
I doubt
picture
it.
is lying.
The picture's a lie.
Mm.
I think LJ summed it up very well that both in vanilla and especially in TBC, we had crafting that was actually useful for raiding. I mean, you could craft best in slot weapons, for example. And we don't see that right now.
No, not at all.
And some of the professions are downright useless, like
Yeah, and
engineering.
well, the thing is, as well, things are very easy to craft right now. There's not much effort needed. That's probably why. Well,
And good that you mentioned that as well, because the system that they have now to actually learn new stuff is just okay. I'm gonna craft my special cloth. What was the name of the cloth again? Celestial cloth. Yeah, I craft one celestial cloth, and I learn a new recipe every day. That certainly does not do the trick for me.
yeah,
No.
and a thought just crossed my mind, and I'm
Be careful
I'm
with
hoping you'll agree that now that Mythic rating, for example, has a fully different lockout, they could actually let recipes and stuff for Mythic level items drop. You know, like legs or belts or whatever, like they do now, and at least have them cost more mats. But it does give Blizzard an opportunity to actually flesh out how much professions can be used to gear your character up.
Silence.
A
We're
lot
not
of
very
those
talk-
today.
We're
I
not
guess
very
they're on
talkative today,
sale.
are we?
No.
Black Friday, huh?
Exactly. We bought a lot of silences yesterday.
Exactly. I mean, the Walmart was stocked on them.
Yeah, exactly. Wouldn't you like to see that, Mario?
Um, yes and no. I'm a big fan of things that are simple. I like things that work, but you don't need to complicate too much. I like if you have a profession that it's useful and you can use it for to craft your own gear. I like the idea of being able to upgrade or keep the pace with the new content they are going to bring. There is now the upgrade item system, which I wouldn't mind having that Okay, I think it can serve its purpose, even though with a range of gear upgrades, whether it's token based or crafting based. But the main focus, I mean, the most important thing for me is that I do want to have my profession to matter more. I want to rely more on what I can create for myself rather than the chances of a loot drop. Ever since the game just became so dependent on this mechanic, I absolutely immediately disliked it.
All right. Well, let me suggest something then, because the way it worked in the earlier days was with reputation. You had to get a certain reputation to be able to get the recipe to craft the item. Wouldn't they be able to do that instead then? Different reputation per rating level, and then get a recipe based on progressing through the start of the harder difficulty, I guess, to be able to get recipes for that difficulty and be able to craft those to progress your character.
Well, if you're talking about the recipe, then it's
Yep.
something different. It's still correlated to the crafting, to the item that you wish to craft. But I'm okay with that. I think if they continue, if they kept that, it's fine because that we're not talking about an item in itself. We're talking about a recipe that once you learn it, then you can create that recipe. You can create that item. Sorry, whenever you wish. So it's fine with that. That is going back to the basics, and it worked fine for me.
Yeah, because that's what I'm getting at. Being able to get recipes for higher or level items depending on which difficulty you're rating. For me, I think that would be a good opportunity for them to at least flesh professions out a little bit, make them more useful. Any last thoughts on professions before we move on?
Although I understand your point. Um, on that front, I would rather have, if you find a recipe for you to create your own item, I think the best thing would be for that item to be the highest level item of that slot. Like friends, like in a way, what we have nowadays. When you craft your item, when you craft your own item, it's probably the nearest equivalent to the top heroic, because
Low.
you still or some way along those lines, or in halfway between the normal and the heroic, because you still need to do a bit of grinding to gather those materials to craft that item. So I would like at least the recipe to give me to be able to make me able to craft an item which is the nearest one possible to the highest heroic tier.
Well, I just have to disagree with you on that, because then if you would be able to get the recipe on normal mode or heroic, or what is heroic next expansion, Gesundheit to your girlfriend. The thing then, what was I saying? Oh yeah, then you wouldn't be able to flesh professions out for the even higher difficulty, and you would get rewarded for with items with what you're saying. That's on a higher level than that you're putting efforts for into, rather.
I don't see that exactly, because let's remember that you still need to gather all the materials to craft. And again, I mean, if I take the example of what happened with a robe of the void from Classic, I had to go through different dungeons and raids to gather all the materials. So you would still need, it wouldn't be overnight that although you learned the recipe, you would immediately get an advantage over everyone else who has not been able to raid heroics yet. So it would take you the time for you to gather all the materials and etc. for you to be able to craft that particular item. So no, I think that you learn you learn the recipe. It will make you craft an item which is it's towards the highest possible tier that you can have on that particular expansion, and yeah, you are putting the effort, and you're putting the effort of your own profession and gathering the materials and also doing the raids and maybe something else. And I think that that's the way it should be, and it's a pretty damn good effort, anyways.
All right, then where's the carrot on the stick going to be for the heroic and mythic raiders to involve professions on those raiding levels? Because then you are limiting it to just that.
Not really. No, 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 no. Again, the heroic raids are the ones that you get the highest on that, the highest items of that expansion. So you have the crafting, which, and again, the tokens allow
All
you to
right,
get
yeah.
the tier bonus, for instance, which
Sure,
the
but
crafting items
then
don't.
you're completely negating professions for the higher rating levels, meaning the professions will just be for, like it is now, getting items on normal mode level. Then everything will be replaced by still rating on the highest level. You're
Well,
completely negating any
no,
connection between
no, 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 no,
professions
no,
and
no.
the
I,
highest
I, I
rate
sincerely
levels.
don't. I truly don't know why you're saying this way because again, this is my only idea. My only interest was to having professions to be more to become important again in the game. So if we were able to craft certain items or our items or any items for our specialization, may be cloth, leather, and plate or mail, then oh, good. Then people would be still would still be encouraged of doing their dailies or doing the dungeons, doing the raids together, and maybe to again to have a recipe drop to gather the materials and to craft. That will help you towards the higher the high end game content. Grades, flax raids or heroic raids or mythical raids. Everything helps towards what you are putting in that's simple. Nothing. It's like again, the items that we were able to craft back in Classic. Again, it was a huge boost, but wasn't the highest available, and people will still it would still be interested in going after the raids and grouping up and do everything they could.
All right. Well, LJ and Anders, you've been listening to our discussion. What are your thoughts on this? Let's start with Anders.
Wow. Wow, wow, wow.
How
I don't
about
have that
no?
much
Let's go
of
get.
an opinion on crafting currently, other than what I stated earlier, of course. Um, I mean, I'm just gonna wait and see, to be honest. Uh, I'm hoping that they're gonna make it meaningful, but yeah.
I don't think Anders and I are thinking it through that much as you two guys. I think we just want it to be useful and have, yeah,
I just
something
find
meaningful to be in the game. It's just you guys have been theory crafting too much, yo.
Well,
Yo,
that's the thing. Game design, game design thinking. And even though Blizzard hasn't even stated they're going to go this far, they have only stated that they might implement this mechanic they're going to use for loot drops as for crafting as well. We don't even know if they're going to give big crafting stuff next expansion. Just that even the greens might get this possible mechanic. Not that it'll be very useful for that, but it is something to think about. And I guess Mario and I don't really agree on how stuff should be done when it comes to crafting, but it's good to at least think about it.
Of course, I mean, people. It's good that people think about it. Some people think about it more than others. Some people
Mm-hmm.
maybe think a little bit too much than it's needed.
Yeah,
But I mean,
you
it's
certainly
all. It's
don't
okay.
mean us. I
No,
mean,
of course not. I mean, you two are taking it not too seriously or whatever. I mean, it's just all in good fun. But still, it's good that people think about it. I'm not saying that. It's just yeah. I don't think, and what I'm just saying is that I don't think about it that much. It's just I want to become meaningful. I want to uh, become that blacksmither again that people need
yeah,
because they need gear.
yeah, exactly.
That's basically the thing I want to be useful again because of it. Not because it takes a lot of money and can eventually give some money. No, because it's useful. Point.
Yeah,
Period. Stop with theory crafting. Next item. Let's go.
sure. I'll just say one more thing to what you're describing. One of the issues is the availability of loot. How easy it is to gear up just completely nullifies it, the professions within a month of a new raid tier coming out. So let's move on to the next point then.
Let's please.
All right then. So during the answering of the questions about itemization, they also mentioned something completely else, also having to do with items, but more in raiding, is that the raid leader will have the choice to have loot drop as personal loot instead of on the boss, having the loot on the boss, so that the raid leader could have master looter, for example, to distribute them. And this would be on both normal mode and heroic difficulty. Remember, this does not mean mythic. Mythic will have basically the same item drop system as today's heroic rating. But how do you guys feel about this, that the raid leader will be able to decide on normal and heroic difficulties whether it's going to be a personal loot system that is used, or the current system from normal and heroic rating? Another silence.
Can I use the 50-50?
Well, that's the thing, eh? Aren't people eventually then going to theory craft of which is best, which is the best way to get a chance at loot?
Aren't they doing that already?
Pretty much.
To some point. I mean, that's what every loot-based game in the whole world. There's people who are gonna play it, and people who are gonna be mathematicians about it. I mean, you can. This might sound totally casual and noobish, of course, but I mean, if you want to, I'm not a mythic, but I'm not going to be a mythic player. I'm never going to be one of those. I mean, with our guild, we might go heroic eventually, which is good enough for me. But I get that looking at guilds like Paragon and I don't know Blood Legion, I think, and all those top guilds, that they will theorycraft until there is no tomorrow about how to get that one piece of loot that might be better, a little bit better than that other piece of loot. But it's up to them basically, and if they want to, sure. But that's always going to happen. It's always going to happen that some I don't want to be racial or anything, but some Japanese guy is going to calculate stuff and then think that trying for this piece of loot is going to be better and more successful than trying for the other piece, because you have a 0.0125 higher percentage of getting it, and it's so much better in comparative. I mean, you can't stop that.
But do you really think it's going to affect the average player?
No. Hell no.
What do you think the average player is going to choose? Personal loot or master looting type system with loot on boss?
So that really depends on what kind of guild you're in. I mean, if
exactly. What kind of guild and how what the raid leader and everything. I mean, I think in guilds formation, I think so. That's something that needs to be talked over with the whole guild. But what they're going to choose, that's up to the guild. Sorry for interrupting, Anders.
No, it's fine. I mean, I think this personal loot thing is more aimed at they want to have more raid groups that are like more spontaneously formed, I think, which flex raiding and all that a lot of jazz. And it's for, let's say you have a friend of the guild joining for a day or something in your raid, and he doesn't have TKP. What do? You gotta find a way to make this work so that no one gets shafted, so to speak.
Yeah,
it's a tough balance, I think. Making it work perfectly, at least.
That's actually quite a good example of yours. That at that situation, you would be able to just choose personal loot over master looting.
I mean, I'm not sure if you have to choose when you start the instance or if you can change it per boss.
That's a good question. We don't know either because it was just mentioned in the not Q&A, but sort of Q&A, I guess, about the itemization. It's obviously not clear at this point because it wasn't even officially announced yet.
So yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, ideally it will be per boss, right? You could change it on the fly.
Yeah, I guess. Ideally, yeah.
Uh,
I mean, for
Ideally.
me, at least I'm still assuming at this point, I'll be doing mythic rating, so I won't be having that issue. Maybe the first few weeks in gearing up in heroic difficulty as well. But after that, I mean, I like having control over who gets the loot, I guess, so that you can choose who needs the upgrade the most, or
Yeah, we know
for a
that you are
certain.
all about control.
I was gonna say that.
I didn't
Yes.
even need to say that.
No, I think it's pretty clear after 13 podcasts of not getting paid.
Yeah,
You're
we
still
have.
not getting paid?
I'm still not getting paid, man. He still hasn't transferred the gold.
Mm,
Oh man.
I
yeah.
know. I know, it's horrible.
Yeah, I'm gonna make that joke every week, so it's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not getting tiresome at all.
No, no, definitely not.
Mm.
I have to do
All
something to
right.
entertain myself during this.
Mm. Any thoughts, Mario? You're always so quiet.
About the podcast,
Uh,
means not thoughts
Yeah.
in general. Keep those to yourself, please.
no, I'm good. I mean, yeah, I follow the stream of thought here, so.
All right, then. Let's move on to this week's discussion points. We won't do a boss review. Why? Just because. Uh,
Good enough for us. Let's keep
exactly. We'll do those when we don't have much to talk about. So,
Like now.
discussion point. We discussed a bit of this earlier on with the Karazhan and stuff like that. So, what is it this week? The way Blizzard should develop their story. Now, in Mist of Pandaria and a bit in Cataclysm, Blizzard has really had the chance to basically start with a clean slate and come up with brand new lore and story arcs. Which, in my opinion, went, well, not bad, it was just underwhelming. The first rating tier was pretty bland overall. The Shahs did not feel like a real threat that spawned from the old god Ersage. And then we went on to the Thunder King and the Zandalari. And, well, if you've seen the podcast before, whenever we think about the trolls, we sigh because they're boring. We see them every expansion almost. And they still do not feel like a real threat. And Garrosh, well, once we saw the video, the trailer, I guess we were like, yes, we need to kill him. But before that, it was just, oh, it's Garrosh. We need to just kill him at some point because he's an annoying little twat. Now, the thing is, the only story points, at least in Mist of Pandaria, that really felt good, because it had good history, and their presence was felt, was the Klaxi storyline. Especially one of the lines at the end of the reputation grind and doing the quests was that they said that our gods were not theirs. It made them interesting, like they had some character to them. So, in Warlords of Draenor, we're going to go back to well-established lore characters, and you can already tell that people feel a lot more excited about this. They will, of course, be using these characters in a new story, but looking at Wrath of the Lich King, for example, when using lore that's established up to a certain point, it has been more interesting. So, with all of this, there's really it's really a two-part question for this week's discussion point. First of all, to each of you, did you like Mist of Pandaria's different stories, and were they interesting enough? And do you think that when Blizzard uses more established lore and characters, the expansion stories are much more interesting because you tend to be more invested in them because you already know them? So let's start with Mist of Pandaria. Mario, you're always so quiet. You go first. How did you feel the characters, the story arcs, all that worth this expansion with the clean slate that Blizzard had?
Well, I'm not. I'm not so much of a fan of the visual marvel that technology may bring us anyway, eventually. So I rather have something that works and that is appealing to me rather than just sugarcoating something. So I mean, it is nice, of course, to see something improved, but it's the least of my worries. It's not really on my top priority list, to be honest.
Okay, I guess. LJ, what are your thoughts on the story of this expansion?
Um, yeah, I don't. They were okay, I guess. It's just I don't know. I started playing World of Warcraft and Warcraft basically because mostly of the lore. I mean, those games have never been. Blizzard has never been a designer of games that were always in the front line of graphics and how pretty everything was. I mean, StarCraft was really good and great in that and such, but I mean, with Warcraft and World of Warcraft and Diablo was good, but it was I wouldn't say dated, but it was also was already a bit older that you could see than like new games that were already just on the market as well. And for me, it's always been about story. More, it's always been about quality instead of quantity. And just, I mean, give me a new Arthas, basically. Give me somebody that, I mean, Garrosh was nasty, but I don't think anybody has had his story that big and developed, and that you just hate him, but also know where he's coming from, as with Arthas. And that's Wrath of the Lich King is for me was basically the end of World of Warcraft as I knew it, to put it like that. I like what they tried with Cataclysm and
It started
yeah,
with the Cataclysm, the end of the world. Just saying.
yeah, yeah. But for me, yeah, I know they tried to make it a big difference, and I mean, they split the Barons. I mean, Barons chat in two places now. Oh my god! But yeah, I actually leveled a horde through Barons. That was special. Yeah, but
You're special.
I am special. That's what my mother calls me. But anyway, um, it was just for me the I don't know. I liked what they're trying to do, and I cheer on innovative story ideas, but they have to be good. And so far, it hasn't been. I mean, like I said, we all thought Garrosh was a big bad meanie, but that was it, basically for one expansion. And Arthas was it for an entire game and a half. So I think they maybe in this next expansion, looking to the future, I think that they need to really develop a storyline that doesn't quit after one expansion, but go on for maybe a second or a third. Maybe not the main story, but something that develops on the background, like with Rathium now as well. But do more stuff like that because I really liked Rathian where I was going to. It was one of the few questions that I actually just listened and read and everything about. Just yeah, give me more of that.
Okay.
That answer your question?
I guess with Garrosh, they did build him up mostly for the Horde then. Starting in Wrath of the Lich King, or even maybe the Burning Crusade? Something
Yeah.
about Nagrand?
Yeah.
His attitude changed a lot between the games.
Yeah.
Where he started
Yeah.
out as a bumbling fool in TBC and a scared dude in Wrath, and then suddenly he's a power hungry warmonger in.
Exactly like that.
Yeah.
They
And
didn't build it.
as an Alliance player, I only know the power hungry part. Not about the Nagrand and whatever he did in Wrath of the Lich King. Something about commanding, maybe? I don't know. Sarfang was a name that came.
Wasn't he? And didn't he lead in Boring Tundra? Wasn't he that?
Possibly.
Was him that there?
Our
Sure.
Horde characters are still at Borean Tundra, so I don't know yet.
True that. Our trolls are still somewhere there
Yes, they're still there
with
somewhere.
a heap of dust on them.
Yeah, exactly. So, Anders, you haven't played much of Pandaria, mainly the start, right? Uh,
Up until Siege, actually.
okay. Then I missed you online a lot. So, what did you
Yeah, I
think
did.
then of the storylines in Mists of Pandaria?
Um, I like them as standalone storylines. Like if you disconnected them from the greater Warcraft universe, they all worked out. They all worked fairly well. Um, they just don't feel as grand in scale. But that was never their intention. Blizzard kept stating this is like a vacation for our characters coming
Yeah.
out to this stupid panda island. And just bumbling about, having a laugh, all that. Um, I mean, the threat were not supposed to be as big as we were used to, and it was supposed to be more about the atmosphere of the place and how the factions react to seeing new stuff. I mean, personally, the best part about the storylines were the first few zones, where you get to see how the Horde and the Alliance are reacting to arriving in this new land, and how the natives are reacting to them, and how everything's affecting. Like Jade Forest, especially, was so good, so good. So on that point, I think it really succeeded. But if you look at it more like, do we have a big badass we can battle? Then no, it did not work out as well as it probably should have done. I mean, Gareth
And
was a meanie, but he was all he was no Lich King. He was no Illidan. He was no. I mean,
not even
he,
Deathwing, to be honest. I
no,
think
no. He
Deathwing
never
was
felt dangerous.
no,
Was the
exactly.
problem with this guy? He always felt a bit like, he's just a spoiled brat running around.
Yeah,
Nothing he did
Yeah.
really felt like
my
he was
daddy
a threat
died.
to anybody. Yeah,
My daddy died early on. I'm very sad. Now I'm going to kill everybody. Basically,
Hmm.
that's how his story was leaped up.
evil
Like you said,
Batman. Okay,
Well, the thing
but yeah,
is,
so,
yeah, with all
okay,
that.
so that's where they were getting their story from.
I think so. Yeah.
Well, the thing is, with his daddy issues, you mainly just saw the changes per patch. Oh, now this zone looks different. Garrosh, you were up to no good again. Are you? How could you?
If it wasn't for those meddlesome orcs.
Exactly. And for me, I don't know. Mr. Fundaria has been pretty bland. It just hasn't been special. So I guess that's all we can say about that part. Let's move on to the.
Well, I could add tons more if you wanted, but
Sure, go for it. If you
no,
have anything else to say about it.
there's some things when you're doing storytelling, is that you can either choose to have a character-driven story or an event-driven story. I mean, how do you want? Um, how do you want? What do you want to drive the plot forward? And in both in TBZ and in Wrath, you had a character-driven story. I mean, you had characters that were in focus. They were on the box art. They were on the loading screens. They were everywhere. You met them along the way. They taunted you. They were part of everything. And you're not going to Northern to stop the Scourge. You're going to Northern to stop the Lich King.
Yep.
Very specifically, the Lich King. Um,
That's also sorry to interrupt, but I also like that how they did that with like they said that from the start from Wrath of the Lich King that they would involve authors with the whole story from the start, which they did pretty much in all the leveling zones. You met him or you saw him influencing stuff. He was more on the foreground. He was actually doing shit
exactly.
instead of Garrosh just hiding behind Orgrimmar's walls about the true horde.
And to add to that, with meeting Arthas every so, especially in Dragonblight, for example, where you actually got to see the shades of the past. You got to see a bit of his history. So even if you didn't play the RTS games, you still could have seen how he fucking betrayed Muradin. Excuse my language.
Yeah, exactly. They brought Muradin back, but also with the one of the best things that ever happened in the World of Warcraft, basically when while leveling, was the little cinematic you got of I think it was For Dragon,
Wrathgate events.
Wrathgate. I
Didn't
mean,
they take that out?
I'm not sure, but we all did it. Put it like that. And
Yeah.
that shit was awesome. I just loved it. I mean, that hit the feels right there. That really got you going for. If you didn't play the RTS and you didn't have any hate for Arthurs, that sure as hell started.
You did there, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You,
That was the thing.
if you didn't have any feelings for to kill him, then you have a problem. Just as well stop playing the game right there.
Yeah.
So,
Oh,
so
and-
that's the thing, right? I mean, it was very character driven, and it involved all the players, and that's how it worked. But both Cataclysm and Mr. Pandera were event driven. It was like the world blows up, or we find a new island, and it's not immediately clear who you're hating and why you're hating it. I mean, when you play Cataclysm, you weren't like, oh bummer, Deathwing blew up the world. You were like, oh awesome, Deathwing blew up the world, so I can see all these new cool zones. That's awesome. I don't want to kill him. I want to thank him. You know,
Exactly.
Deathwing for mayor. I mean,
Deathwing
you-
for president. Why not go right over? Go
they
right.
didn't,
on
they
yours.
didn't do a great enough job of building the personal story into it. Which again is the biggest failure for these last two expansions.
Mhm.
And I
Yeah.
think they're going to fix that in Warlords. It seems like they really want you to care more about the characters. Like the first thing they put up on their website was the bios for all the Warlords, and like some of the Alliance characters, the Draenei's and such.
Yeah.
They want you to know who the fuck you're fighting, and why you're fighting them.
Yep.
And they want you to know straight up from the beginning. And that's
the-
what we've been missing.
yeah,
I mean-
and the thing is, these characters have already been established for a very long time. They already have a lot to work with. They can build on.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
And that's good that they have a background. I'll give you that, but that doesn't mean that Blizzard can't do that with other expansions.
Oh,
mean,
easily. But
They can establish. That's what I mean. They can establish certain lines now, even at the end of Mob, and carry them through until the next expansion or the
Yeah.
expansion after that. They're making it difficult on themselves while they don't have to, because they are known for their very good and very great, great as in size storylines.
Yeah,
I
they've
mean-
been trying to do it. I mean, Anduin, the Blood Elf guy, whatever his name is.
Lord Lord
Exactly him.
What's his name?
Sylvanas, although that's been on ice for a while. So they have been trying to. I think as far as success goes, Anduin has been developed the most by far.
Oh, definitely, and I think I like what they're doing with him. That especially with, like, you had him travel with you basically through Mob and now with Wrath, such. But there's still more possibilities there.
Yeah. Any other thoughts, Anders?
not for now.
All right, good. Let's go on to the second part then, and we've kind of already discussed it. So, do you think that when Blizzard uses more established characters and lore, especially, the expansion stories tend to be more interesting?
Sorry, could you repeat the question again?
Sure. Do you think that when Blizzard uses more already established lore and characters, that the expansions tend to be more interesting?
I think we actually answered that question
Yeah,
already.
we already kind of did, but any other final thoughts about that then?
Not necessarily because it's new. It's just because so far, I mean, the experience I've had, it made sense to whatever the story was. It made sense for them to create and to bring out more characters. So yeah, I mean, I haven't seen anything completely out of context. So just to answer the question directly, just because they're bringing more characters does no, it doesn't. It has to be relevant to what we're seeing and what we're experiencing.
Okay. Any last thoughts then on this subject in general before we finish it off? I guess not.
No, no. Arthur's for president, I think. But yeah,
Hmm.
for the rest.
Well,
Well,
again, we still haven't seen that much of what's going to go on in Warlords. They've teased a very tiny amount. They kept saying that everything they showed off was just a small part of the story of the expansion. So
yeah,
I'm hoping they live up to that. I mean, I really do.
yeah,
They deliver on that promise. I mean, they're going to focus a lot on the Draenei's. We haven't heard anything about those really. Uh, so there's exciting stuff going on. You don't
Yeah,
really know where it's going to end up.
yeah. Every day I'm looking more and more forward to Warlords. I really hope they go into beta soon. So I guess that's it then for this week's podcast. But thank you, LJ, for joining.
anytime, mate.
Okay, great. Thanks, Anders, for battling through your hangover, even though I
Ah,
don't really have any sympathy towards that.
well, screw you then.
Oh, that's
I was
because
going to say thanks.
It's not really nice to
probably.
treat your guests like this, is it, Messi?
Yeah, it probably is because you didn't enjoy as much as he did, Messi. Otherwise, he would have.
Well. Thank you, Mario, for joining last minute. Some more warning would have been nice. Communicating.
Nah.
This
I
was
want
the
to keep
plan
you
all
on your
along.
toes. I want to keep you on your toes.
Yeah, no. Anyway, thanks for joining. As always, thanks to the watcher listener for tuning into our podcast. If you want to follow us, you can subscribe on YouTube. Follow me on BBMezzi on Facebook or Twitter if you don't have a YouTube account. Click the like button if you enjoyed the podcast. Always good to see people actually enjoying our content. I'm Mezzi, and I'll see you again next time.